Is this it? Bhakti Connect? What's going on? Oh, that's you. Hare Krishna. Welcome, family. Jai Shri Krishna. We're working on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, getting it set up. So, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Does everybody know who Srila Sridhar Maharaj is? Srila Sridhar Maharaj is a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is also the guru of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, who is here. He made this Bhagavad Gita as it is, which he worked on in the 50s when Srila Govinda Maharaj was staying in his house. Srila Govinda Maharaj is there. So he was a boy of 17 who had just joined Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Math, and his parents were they wanted him back, so they sent men to drag him back, and he was able to somehow or other get away from them. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, his guru, decided that he'd be better off in Calcutta, away from them. So he went to Calcutta, and because Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada were so close, Srila Govinda Maharaj stayed in the room upstairs from Srila Prabhupada's laboratory. Prabhupada was a chemist at the time. And every day Srila Govinda Maharaj here heard Srimad Bhagavad Gita from Srila Prabhupada. For, we don't know how long, between 6 and 8 years, a long time. So really Srila Govinda Maharaj had more association with Srila Prabhupada than any of us disciples. So he himself said to me, yes, I am his disciple. Because he was Srila Prabhupada was Srila Govinda Maharaj's Shiksha Guru, and sometimes Shiksha Guru is more important than Diksha Guru. Diksha means formal initiation, formal connection. Shiksha means instruction. So sometimes the Diksha Guru is also Shiksha, and sometimes in the departure of the Diksha Guru, we get Shiksha, or instructions, from in this case, the godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, to whom Srila Prabhupada sent us. Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, sent us to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Anyway, as a result of these classes, Prabhupada was working on the Gita as it is in the 50s, and finally it was completed, I think, after he arrived in New York, and it was printed in around, I think, 1968 by Macmillan, but with no Sanskrit. But it was available at that time, and when I joined, we had these blue Bhagavad Gitas that were printed by Macmillan. Anyway, then later, ISKCON got the rights back and printed with full Sanskrit, transliteration, everything. And what I mean to say is that Prabhupada completed this, sometime in the 60s, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, sometimes they ask, well, why did Sridhar Maharaj come out with the Gita after Prabhupada? But actually, Srila Sridhar Maharaj finished his Gita in 1944, and the commentary was in Bangla. So in what we're reading now is the translation from the Bengali to the English, which was reviewed by Srila Govinda Maharaj and approved. So there's only slight variations in the translations, and sometimes Srila Sridhar Maharaj is a little more elaborate in his translation, in that he tends to give more developed, how can I say, insight into the particular meaning of Sanskrit, because Sanskrit depends on the consciousness of the reader and the consciousness of the speaker. So as we read the words of Krishna, someone who's a pure Vaishnava, Paramhansa Vaishnava, he sees it one way. When we read it, we see it another way. And when I've been reading Bhagavad Gita for a long time, and Srila Govinda Maharaj was reading it for even more. And he also said, every time I read the Gita, there's something else new. How is that? After 50 years reading the Gita, there's something new? It's because consciousness changes. If you're practicing, if you're trying to come closer to Krishna, he helps you. And your consciousness develops and changes. And you see more and more what's really there. And not only see with the eyes, but feel with the heart. What Krishna is speaking to us from himself to Arjuna, and then to us through the grace of here Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. So, okay, so we just came to the verse 54, where Arjuna said, "O Keshava," Keshava is Krishna. What does Keshava mean? Long black hair or something like that? Hair. Beautiful hair, yeah, Keshava. O Keshava, what are the characteristics of the person of firmly established wisdom who is fully absorbed in consciousness of the Supreme? That is Samadhi. Samadhi means like you've reached the point where there's nothing else in your consciousness except service to the Supreme, connection with the Supreme through devotion and love. It's the pinnacle of the fulfillment of our inner desire for love is found in connection with Krishna. Whereas in the temporary world, we find love temporarily, but even if it lasts the whole lifetime, still it must end because of the temporary nature of the world, and that's not satisfying for us because we're souls within. So, what is the characteristics? Who is fully absorbed in consciousness of the Supreme Samadhi. How does such a man of steady mind speak, be, and act in this world? It's interesting, Srila Prabhupada says, how does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? So, a little bit, Srila Sridhar Maharaj has refined it a little bit, just in the sense of making it clearer in terms of how things are controlled by the mind. That's all I mean to say. So now we're on verse 55, which is there. Can everybody see the transliteration? Can anybody read the Sanskrit? Okay, let me move it. Let me see if I can find, there we go. I think that's it. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. We don't need that. Okay. Okay. So here we have. Whoops! It shut off. Oh boy. Yeah, just where's Ramananda? Swipe one. Okay. Wow. It didn't. Okay. Yeah, okay, it's right back. Hopefully this will come up. Okay. So I'll say it, and then we'll repeat together. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan atmanyevatmana tushta stita pragyas tadochate. 55. So, okay, let's try it together. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan atmanyevatmana tushta stita pragyas tadochate. Okay, translation is the next page. The Supreme Lord said, O Partha, one who rejects all desires that enter the mind and remains fully self-satisfied within, as known as a person whose wisdom is firmly established. So Krishna is giving us an outline of, what it is to be a self-realized person. Our gurus tell us it's not necessary to think that I must immediately be like this, but we can keep this in mind as the goal of our ideal, and that ideal which we are trying to go towards in the course of our life. So we have, by hearing Bhagavad Gita and by understanding the Bhagavad Gita in the context of how a pure Paramahansa sees the Bhagavad Gita, then we get the chance to absorb the sound and the real essence of the Bhagavad Gita into our hearts. It's not just words put together. We say this a lot, but it should be repeated, that it's beautiful Sanskrit, and Sanskrit itself, in itself, has the hidden potency of transcendence. It's said that Sanskrit is spoken in that spiritual world. So, who knows? But how can we understand that what that means is it's a sound above the letters, and previously things were conveyed from person to person, and people remembered it in the previous age. Kali Yuga now we don't remember, so the Devanagari has descended to show us how to remember Sanskrit. And by the grace of our gurus, we're given translations into English, and so many languages all over the planet. People are reading this and understanding this. So rejecting all desires that enter the mind, that means he remains self-satisfied. So this means, what does it really mean? It means that the inner desire coming from the soul that wants to be with Krishna, that wants to love Krishna, that wants to find happiness and fullness and satisfaction with Krishna is, deluded. And thinking, oh, if I just get this, if I just get that, if I just find this person, if I just find that person, I'll become satisfied. But that's just the opposite of what it takes to be satisfied. What it takes to be satisfied is within knowing that, and feel, not only knowing, when it says sometimes knowing, fully knowing, that means that not only that we know it in our intelligence, but we, as best we can describe, feel it in the soul. Real knowledge means you've absorbed it and it has become an awakened part of your existence. It's not just ordinary stuff that you memorize at university or something, but this is stuff that penetrates into our hearts and changes our outlook on life, changes our perception, changes how we view the world and how we feel inside. The closer, as we approach this, we begin to feel more and more self-satisfied. And look at what self-satisfied means. This person remains self-satisfied within. So he's got everything within. He doesn't need to get stuff without. He, maintains his body, does his duty in relation even to his family, his friends, in relation to the society, the country, all these different things. But he knows that he doesn't need anything outside of the inner spiritual self. And of course the natural position of the self is to serve Krishna. So he remains self-satisfied within by being free from all desire, and Krishna will develop, actually in this chapter, but also through the course of the Bhagavad Gita, he'll develop the understanding that we become free from desire on the material level by experiencing just the opposite, happiness from within on the spiritual level. So if we go within, if we try to act in a different way, that is beginning to give ourselves to Krishna, we'll begin to get more and more developed satisfaction and approach more and more closely to the position of being self-satisfied and being firmly established in wisdom. You know, what firmly established in wisdom, what that means is you've got it, you know it. You haven't memorized it, but you feel it. You know what's real. And this is the realized Paramahansa. He like feels the Bhagavad Gita. He knows the Bhagavad Gita. And the amazing, wonderful thing about, pure realized souls, as I've studied it, as best as I've seen, each one has distinct individuality. Each one perceives things slightly different because each one has a particular relationship with Krishna. It's like a wonderful thing. It's not as though everybody on the platform of Brahman is the same. But the plane of Param Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, that's the land of love and devotion. And that's where the Vaishnavas reside. Okay, so 55. Now we go to 56. It should be there. It's going to be hard to get the Sanskrit in. Let me see if I can do it. You got it? Spriha, right? Uchyate. Munir Uchyate, right, okay. Okay, so let's listen to Gurudev. We kind of little bit missed the beginning, but let's take a listen. The vibration given by the pure realized soul has potency in it. So if we try to meditate on the sound that he's giving, that will give us some inner experience that will enable us to see what the Bhagavad Gita is better and better. So let's try it. Let's see if I can somehow back it up a little bit. Uh-oh, I just pushed it all the way to the back. Oh, no. Oh, dear. Where's Ramananda? Is he around? Okay. Well, hopefully Ramananda Prabhu can find it, and we'll just continue. Okay. 56. Dukesh vanu vigna mana sukeshu vigata spriha vitaraga bhayakrodha stita dir munir uchyate. Okay, let's try it. Dukesh vanu vigna mana sukeshu vigata spriha vitaraga bhayakrodha stita dir munir uchyate. What happened was I thought I could back it up with this, and I pushed it all the way back. So I've kind of lost it. It will make... I did it again. Okay, so if you can approximate like you did before, we can try to find it. Okay. One who is undisturbed by sorrow... Oh, let me just move it. One who is undisturbed by sorrow, whose hankering for pleasure has gone, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as a silent sage of steady mind. We've been told about this since early times in the beginning of the Krishna consciousness mission in the West. Shtita dir muni. a muni who is like sthita, fixed, and dhira. What is dhira? Sober, yeah, mellow, yeah. Sthita, dhira, muni. And the munis are seers, sages, people who know. Sthita di is called steady intelligence. Anyway, by Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So, okay. One who is undisturbed by sorrow, whose hankering for pleasure has gone, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is known as a silent sage of steady mind. So, undisturbed by sorrow, whose hankering for pleasure has gone, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger. This is a pretty, pretty big, what do you call it? Thing to chew. It's quite a challenge just to see how Krishna has compacted in one verse, you know, the depth of the necessity of realization and the actual realization of the great soul. So, you know, in the material world, we find, you know, happiness and pleasure, and we feel really good, and then later our best friend is killed, or our mother dies, or our grandfather dies, or, you know, sorrow comes inevitably in the material world. But one who knows that he's spirit within, you know, whatever happens in the material world, he's conscious of it. And not only that, he's conscious of the sorrow of other people. He's come down to this level of existence, and he feels what we feel. But rather than being like lost in those feelings like we are, he's above them. He experiences what it is to be within the material world, but yet at the same time he's above it. So he has, you know, he knows that this experience causes a sorrow. But yet, because he's living in a higher world, he's not affected by the sorrow. Is that clear? Sorrow is there, but he's not affected because he's transcendental. So, undisturbed by sorrow, whose hankering for pleasure has gone. That means, like, any kind of calculative idea that I want to get something. I mean, even finally, in the end of the Gita, in the 18th chapter, Krishna tells us, you know, give up everything, even the desire to get something spiritual. You have to come to the stage where all you want to do is serve. You don't want anything for yourself. Well, Krishna is indicating this here, that, you know, the personal hankering is just gone. And the only reason, the only way in which it can be gone is by, you know, development of inner spiritual satisfaction that, you know, naturally comes when one comes in contact with the higher transcendental energy, of which is, or contained, how can I say, contained by the energy coming from the Supreme Servitor, Srimati Radharani. It's devotion, it's love, it's all these things, beauty, everything is there that we kind of innately seek out in this world. Beauty, truth, knowledge, understanding, ecstasy, all these different aspects of experience that inherently within, we want to find them. So we're looking all over the world. Some people travel all over the world, climb mountains, do all kinds of things, you know, seeking. What? Seeking experience. What, you know, what kind of experience? It's kind of different for everyone. But ultimately, it's the experience that comes from the soul. So Krishna is telling us that soul who is like free. He doesn't have attachment. If something comes to him that's good, that's okay. If something comes to him is bad, that's also okay. He's not like jumping up and down when he, you know, graduates from university or something. It's like, okay, it's done. Now I move on to my next service. And he's not, if somehow or other he fails a class, he's not lost in despair. It's just, okay, I made a mistake this time, now I have to correct it. No problem. Those are rough examples. Okay. So now he says, free from fear and anger. So fear, bhaya. Fear comes about because, we think that the stuff that we have and the body that we have and the mind that we have will give us satisfaction. But we know in the material world that one way or other, sometime or other, that those things that we have and even this very body will be gone. So like in everybody's gut, there's kind of a fear. And it's natural because we've become attached to something that is, does nothing more than entrap us in a world of experience of fear. We get breaks sometimes, but really at the base of it, we're afraid we're going to lose our family, our bodies, everything else because we're attached. But one who is developed, he doesn't have that fear because he knows he's the soul within, and he knows, his job is above his natural duties within the world. His job is to develop his connection with Krishna through the process of surrender, of trying to give oneself within to Krishna and developing attachment to Krishna. So he knows that. So, in spite of the natural feelings that come along with our attachments and family life and all these things, the great soul, he knows what is reality. And he knows that the highest thing I can do for those who are in my family is to help them become more spiritually developed. To help free them. There's a verse, do you have any idea what that is? Don't become a father, don't become a guru, don't become a teacher, all these things. Someone who's in a superior position teaching, don't do that unless you can deliver the person who's dependent on you. That's, a statement from one of the Upanishads, I think. And it's a clear, heavy statement, but it really has to do with what's really going on in this world. We're bringing people into the world, and are we going to just, help them continue in the samsara, the cycle of birth and death? Or are we going to help them become free? Train them up so they can get a good job, get a big house, get a big car, and then die and take a birth, according to their activities within this life. Or teach them to be a good person, and then they become elevated to another plane in this material universe. But really, we don't need any of that. We should be conscious that we're really on a sinking ship. I just told that to a friend who's telling me all these things about conspiracies and why aren't you worried about they're trying to take over the world and all this kind of stuff. And I just tell him, we're on a sinking ship. Let's get on the lifeboat and head for the land. Who cares what's going on in the cabins and everything else? It's lost. The whole thing is not, it's not the real thing. We have to be, intelligent and conscious of our actual circumstance, and not be too worried about, what things are going on within the world of illusion, the world of dreams. Like if you have a bad dream, you wake up and you just kind of shake it off. So in a similar way, we work to wake ourselves up, and finally we get up and we shake it off and remember our time in the material world, even though now it may be millions of years. In the actual real context of things, we know from the cosmology, the Vedic cosmology, that one breath out of Vishnu is a duration of many Brahmas, many universes, many billions and trillions of years, and one breath in, everything's destroyed. And that's the the position of eternity. So it seems like we're caught here for a very long time, when in actuality it's like happening like that. And sometimes we get a glimpse of that, especially when we get old. You think, wait a minute, I was 50 just a little while ago. What's going on? Or, you know, I was 20 just a little while ago. Now, how could I be 40? And then before you know it, it's like, whoa, I'm going to be 70? Is that possible? It just zoom. It goes by, you know, in a way that we can't really comprehend. Because, you know, Krishna says, Kalaham, I am time. And I don't know the rest of the Sanskrit, but he says, I have come to engage all people and destroy all the worlds. Time. So they know this by, what is it called in physics? Entropy, yeah. That entropy, everything gradually is going to dissipate. They even know in physics laws. And many of the latest developments in physics really point straight to the Bhagavad Gita. And the understanding of that the reality has to do with the spirit and the conscious perception of the spirit through the mind and through the intelligence and the action of the spirit within this world. Matter is influenced by consciousness. So the ancient scriptures tell us consciousness has produced the world. Based on our desire, a world is produced before us. We know it's hard to comprehend, but that's what we're told by the great souls, and that's within the scriptures. It doesn't all come up evolutionarily. It manifests like like the physicists have found it. It's waves. It's waves of energy. Even this chair is waves. It seems like it's solid, but really, if they look into it, it's just waves. And the waves are somehow or other influenced by any conscious presence that comes near the waves. And they can't quite figure out why. Physics has come to the stage where they're running into consciousness. And now, you know, some of the physicists are thinking, wow, maybe there's something to this spirituality, religion thing. Okay. Okay, he's free from fear, free from anger. Why anger? Because anger has to do with, you know, frustrated expectations, frustrated desire. And when you don't get something that you want, you get angry. Or when someone irritates you or insults your ego and your perception of your standing in society or whatever, you get angry. And the great soul, he's beyond that. He doesn't care what happens that has to do with the temporary material world. This is describing someone who's like completely free, who has no worries and can walk in this world and yet be above all the limitations and frustration, fear, everything that comes with the material world, including death. This can actually bring us above death. And I can honestly and consciously say that as a result of a long time, my whole life, practicing in one degree or other, I've worked at a job, I've raised my family, I've lived in 20 different cities, not literally, but somewhere around there. I've gone back to university, I've done so many different things, but I've also tried to keep focused on my spiritual life. And as a result of that, I have some feeling, some perception that life goes on beyond this body. So I'm thinking right now, really, okay, what am I going to do now to stabilize my existence in such a way so that my consciousness can become increasingly closer to Krishna, and in that way prepare for my next birth. And actually, you know, I should have consciously been doing that my whole life, because the end is relatively very soon anyway. We could walk out and get, you know, crushed by a bus or something. But, you know, we never know. It's a temporary world and we can never tell. So then Krishna goes on to say that this Shtita Dhir Muni, he knows. Shtita Dhir Muni Uchyate. He's the one who knows. He's the silent sage of steady mind, because he's beyond all these things. Okay. What's the time? Did you find the sloka?
Yes, I did.
All right.
It's 58.
Good man. 57.
57.
You can get it. That's 58. 57.
I think somewhere here.
Ya sarva trana vishnehas tat tat prapya shubha shubham. Bas? Okay. So we missed kind of the first stanza. So I'll do my best with this one. Ya sarva tranabhish nehas tat tat prapya subhashubham nabhina datina dveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Yes, pratishtita. Okay. So let's try it together. Ya sarvatra bishnishthas tat tat prapya subhashubham nabhina datina dveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Okay. And Sanskrit is so nice that, you know, if you hear it, if you listen to it, you kind of can sense that there's more there than meets the eye. Something is coming to us through the sound. And, you know, sure enough, that's what we're told by our gurus, that contained within the sound is the transcendental stream of existence. And based on our receptivity, that stream will enter us. So it's just like our gurus give the example of tuning a radio. People still do that. You tune a radio and you have to get it very finely to get it on the right station so you receive it properly. So the process of development of bhakti, we're just tuning ourselves in to the transcendental frequency that's coming down from the spiritual realm. And how to tune ourselves in, that's given by you know, those great souls who've already made it, or not only that, who may have come down from that transcendental place to help us. Okay, so we just did 57, right? Okay. One who is not attached to anything in this world, who neither enjoys nor resents auspiciousness or inauspiciousness, his wisdom is firmly established. So 57. Yeah. Okay. Someone who is without attachment, sarvatra, for anything in the world, na abhinadati, neither joyful, not dveshti, nor resentful. Prapya, in the event of shubha asubham, auspiciousness or inauspiciousness, tat tasya pragya pratishta. Pratishta, firmly established. Pragya, wisdom. His wisdom is firmly established when he doesn't need anything in this world. When, you know, he doesn't really enjoy something that's really nice, and he doesn't really resent the situation if it's really bad. Like we said, it's because, you know, he's reached the progressive stage. And we're hearing this, you know, why? To teach us that this is possible, that this is real. And by hearing the sound and the translation and the explanations and receiving the sound directly from our guru, this gives us a glimpse at what reality is. And that glimpse will stimulate us to you know, continue and go on. It's like that. You're in a dark cave and you can hardly see, but you see that there's light at the end somewhere. And you're advised, take a step. Don't worry about it. Take a step. It'll be okay. And you take the first step, and sure enough, it's solid ground. And then you get advice, take another step, and it's solid ground. So the advice of the Bhagavad Gita, the advice of the gurus, as we understand that, you know, they're really reaching down to us wherever we're at in terms of our attachment to the temporary world, they're reaching down to us to pull us out, and all we have to do is go forward. And that's called Shraddha, or faith. Take a step in the darkness. You don't know for sure what's going to happen, but your teacher's telling you, don't worry about it. And, you know, to expand the metaphor, maybe he's ahead of you with a torch, and you see a little bit of what's there. And that gives you some increased faith. Something like that is, you know, the understanding of how faith is developed that will bring us to this kind of stage where we don't have attachment for anything in this world. You know, neither enjoys nor resents auspiciousness or inauspiciousness. Doesn't matter what's happening. That kind of wisdom, pragya, is firmly established. Pratishta. So firmly established in the person who is like beyond these things. So really, you know, in the Gita, Krishna is giving us, he's explaining what the symptoms are of the, you know, the highest kind of personality. And, you know, gradually he's leading us to, you know, the conclusion that this kind of consciousness is possible through making connection with the spiritual realm, of which the whole foundation is love and devotion and dedication. Okay, so can we do 58? Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Let me see. Yada samharate chayam kurmoan nagniva sarvasha indriyan indriyartebhyas tasya pragya patishtita. Okay, let's try it. Yada samharate chayam kurmoan gavniva sarvasa indriyani indriyartebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. Really good. This is amazing how, you know, some of these Sanskrit word combinations, you know, are able to kind of hone in on specific, you know, subtle experience or aspects of, you know, particular types of experience that it's difficult to convey in, you know, an ordinary language because it's not so developed. You know, it's very interesting that the people who are linguists generally, at least at the universities I went to, they first study Sanskrit. And they acknowledge that Sanskrit is the most organized and developed language system in the whole world, ever. But, you know, paradoxically, it's the oldest. So, you know, you might naturally think, well, if it's the oldest, why hasn't the whole thing kind of collapsed? But it hasn't. It's still as strong as ever. So that's just something to think about. Because if you know, as time passes, I see the English language is, you know, in America, in England, is kind of deteriorating. You know, things are not the same as when I was younger. The language is becoming kind of slurred and mixed up, as far as I can tell. So, you know, and if you look at earlier language, it's very kind of, it appears to us very formal and very rigid, but yet it had some, contained within it was, what can I say, a more substantial connection with the culture and with the reality of the environment within which the language is in. You know, I think language is influenced by, like Krishna says in the Gita, by whatever a great man does, simple men, ordinary men follow. So language is influenced by perceived great men, and now the perceived great men are not sadhus. They're not, you know, anybody who's talking about Param Brahman and the nature of the self, but you know, the people who are, I don't even know their names now, but the people who are, you know, the best singers in, what's the latest rap type stuff? Garage or something. I'm like, when I first started to hear it, I think in the late 80s or something, I thought, what happened to rock and roll? I just couldn't understand it, so I didn't even follow it. So I guess that means I'm old. But anyway, who's the young person here? Didi. Oh, there you go. What's the latest music? What's it called?
Grime.
Grime?
Changing all the time, Maharaj. It's you know, changing.
Mumble rap.
Mumble rock?
Mumble rap.
There you have it. It's mumble.
Mumble rap.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? Mumble rap? Okay. Well, it was rap back in the, you know, it was popped up, it was starting to pop up in the 80s, rap. So maybe it's coming around. Anyway, I got off on a bit of a tangent there. But, yeah. So, you know, what I mean is the language is determined by the leaders, and the leaders are these people who are like slurring language and, you know, using it for all kinds of bizarre purposes. And the language is influenced, you know, no doubt about it. Okay. 57, 58. Do we have the transliteration? No, let's move the screen up first.
Number?
58. No, it's 59. It's really... Okay. Gurudev. Yep. Yeah, that was just passed, yeah. You got to back it up somehow. Yada samharate chayam.
know what I don't see.
No, it's not there. You have 58.
No, wait a minute, we're on 58. No, we haven't. The tortoise withdrawing the limbs?
Oh, we did the Sanskrit.
Oh, we did? So I'm confused. I'm sorry. We did the Sanskrit for 58?
Yeah.
You die. Oh, right, okay. Sorry about that. I must have read things twice. Okay, so we'll read the English. When one's senses are controlled and totally withdrawn from their objects, like the limbs of a tortoise, we say tortoise, withdrawn in its shell, his wisdom is firmly established. So we can understand by the, the metaphor. So many metaphors are used here, even by Krishna himself. And our gurus use so many metaphors. And why do metaphors work? They work nicely in relation to giving spiritual examples, because the whole material world is set up by spirit. And behind everything in this world is the spiritual essence. So, I've said it before, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our great teachers around the turn of the century, said, matter is the dictionary of spirit. Whatever you see around you, if you see it clearly, it points towards spirit and out of the temporary world. So, again, this is the ideal personality. He uses his senses only when necessary to engage in spiritual activities. Otherwise, he withdraws them. He's able to do that. He doesn't need to follow the demands of the senses, but he just withdraws from contact. So the perfect soul is like that, and his wisdom is fixed, firmly established. Like we've said, that means he knows, he feels, he lives it. Not that he just gets it intellectually and is able to translate into action. Sometimes people, they actually think like that. I'm reading some of these New Age ideas that they have, and they think if you understand that intellectually that we're all spirit and that there is a spiritual essence there, the Brahmajyoti, then you're liberated. It's like, then you can do anything because you're the Supreme who's come down to this world to enjoy. But never mind the drunk on the street, or the person getting run over by a car, or everyone dying. Oh, don't worry about that. It's all beautiful and bliss. But there's a problem there in that kind of analysis. And the problem is that if there is a God, if there is a Supreme, if there's even a Supreme Brahman that is able to will, somehow the Brahman itself is able to will, that's, unknown how a big energy could do that, but it does, it wills, and so many sparks come down to this world to find happiness and enjoyment. But don't you think that, as is described in the Upanishads and everywhere in the scriptures, the Supreme Brahman is beyond all these things. He doesn't need anything temporary. He's completely transcendental, completely aloof, perfectly in control, and never has to feel happiness or sadness or any of these things that come with the material world. So the Supreme Brahman naturally can have a world where things don't happen like this. And that this for us is very, all the problems. There's a reason why we have so much problems in this world, because we're supposed to conclude that probably I don't belong here, but where do I belong? That's like human life. The dogs can't do it, the cats can't do it, nobody can do it but humans. And that's the real function of human life, is to find out who am I? what is my purpose in life? You know, how can I, you know, first understanding there is such a thing as a spiritual realm, then, or accepting or hearing about it and thinking, well, it's possible. Then one is, if one's, you know, honest to him or herself, then the pursuit towards that spiritual ideal has to be undertaken. You know, it's a what if. What if you could get to a place where there's just perfect freedom, no death, happiness, full fulfillment. Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai Giriraj. Everybody know Giriraj? Giriraj means from Giri Govardhan. And Govardhan is in Vrindavan, and Govardhan is famous because Govardhan Hill was worshipped by the Brajavasis, and Indra got really mad and sent, this is all described in Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam. Indra got really mad and sent the, what was it, Samvartaka cloud. And the Samvartaka cloud came and just poured just unbelievable amounts of rain on Vrindavan. And to protect the residents of Vrindavan, with his little finger, Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. And because all the residents of Vrindavan in that realm don't, you know, they live with Krishna, they play with Krishna. Krishna's their son, Krishna's their friend. They don't understand who he really is. So they're all trying to hold up the hill with their sticks and things. But Krishna's got it, no problem. So anyway, Govardhan Hill is still there today. You can still go and do parikrama around it and come to the beautiful Radha Kunda, which is the place of Srimati Radharani, which is very holy and very sacred. Anyway, from that hill come small shilas or stones. And this particular shila is from Govardhan Hill, and therefore he's called Giriraj, the master of the hill. And, you know, since, as far as we can trace back in history, Giriraj has been worshipped in a very similar way. And of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is this is the Murti of the Avatar who descended 500 years ago to teach us, you know, exactly how we can fulfill Krishna's conclusions of Bhagavad Gita. You know, Krishna gives us straight, you know, he gives it straight out what it is. But the actual way in which we can do it is not that clear. Give up all forms of religion, all forms of speculation, and just, you know, come with me, be with me, surrender to me. And, you know, there's so many forms of speculation, philosophies, and all these different things that we take shelter of, trying to, you know, figure out what life is about. But Krishna says, you know, don't worry about it. Come to me. And then Krishna comes in the Kali Yuga as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the Yuga avatar, and gives us the way, the means through which we can fulfill the instructions of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita are the same. So they're like very intrinsically, they're very deeply connected, automatically connected. And you can't have one without the other is the actual final conclusion of the, you know, the great saints, that to learn how to fulfill the defined understanding given by Sri Krishna is revealed through the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and understanding the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, and from the instruction of Lord Chaitanya, understanding from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana, about what existence is like, what an existence is like based on pure service to Krishna. There's, like, Bhagavatam is a history of ancient times. And, you know, we can't perceive or understand how this works. I mean, now the archaeologists are finding, you know, evidence of ancient civilizations that may be like 100,000 years old. They don't know. They can't understand how it's possible. And, you know, so anyway, the Bhagavatam talks about very ancient stuff. And it's out of the range of our, you know, we've been kind of programmed to a particular perception of what history is like, how it's developed, all these things. But the ancient scriptures speak differently. You know, so in ancient times, everybody didn't hear from the scientists, they heard from the scriptures and the saints. And these things were understood. Now we hear, you know, basically atheistic scientific conclusions about the nature of reality. And we're kind of like penned in by academia to accept what they've concluded. But, you know, the great souls say, wait a minute, you know, there's another way to perceive things. You don't have to be a, you know, a slave to the structure of a false and empty society. You can, you know, break free, you know, even within this life. You can really get totally free. That's, you know, that's what's told by Mahaprabhu, by Krishna, it's by our gurus. If you, you know, really dive into it, you can do it in one life. For the rest of us, it may take several lives. But, you know, it's possible. We know it's possible by the example of our gurus. What time is it? Oh, we're over already, are we?
6 past.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry I messed up on that verse. So we'll start on 59, right, next week? That sounds right? Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Withdrawing the senses, is that like one of those sensory deprivation baths? No, Krishna's not talking about that.
Talked about it if he came down in this age. But here we hear about a tortoise, or a tortoise as we say in America. Yeah, I mean, it's just really simple and logical. When the tortoise needs his limbs, he just pops them out. And when he doesn't need them, he just pops them in again. And, and we just have to learn how to do that, which is no easy task. So, you know, but everything that the Gita says has to do with the higher spiritual reality. So, you know, we understand just by hearing it, just by hearing the sound, it begins to become entrenched in our hearts, in our consciousness, and just by the touch of the sound, we can develop into a consciousness that just consciously accepts what's coming in this form from these sources. You know, by experience, we begin to accept Shabda Brahman, the pure sound that comes down, as opposed to the cacophony of speculation about what existence is about and how the world works and all these different things. They're all seeking, but really, generally the world doesn't know what they're seeking after. And they're all driven by selfish drives, and therefore, you know, the place is a mess. So, I mean, you know, it's just true. All these wars, and are they still fighting in the Ukraine?
Yeah.
How many, 10,000 dead now or something? Yeah. I mean, why? This is my land. No, this is my land.
It's just blood upon blood upon blood.
Yeah.
The whole planet is just so...
And what is the answer?
Yeah.
It's Krishna's land. It's neither one of our lands. Let's use it for him. It's like really simple to accept that, because the whole world is set up based on illusion. So again, like I said, we can, you know, conclude, think about, well, we can improve the world by doing this and doing that and becoming greener and you know, we appreciate all these things, but that's not the end goal. That's just like if you have a bad dream, is your object to, you know, fix the dream and make it a good dream, or do you want to wake up? That's like the choice that confronts everybody, but based on the sukriti that's developed in our hearts, we have the chance to hear not only sukriti but also real practice from you know, previous lives, or hearing from our parents, or you know, so many possibilities are there. But somehow or other, we're at the point where we can utilize our free will in the real proper context that it's meant for, and that is to choose spirit over matter. Basically, it's like that. Or you have a choice within matter to choose basically good or bad or in between, something like that. Otherwise, karma machine is rolling on, and every step you take, unless you take it for Krishna, you're stepping on an ant. That's a problem. So the Jains, they cover their faces and they kind of skip around trying to avoid ants because they want to avoid karma. But they don't understand that the way to avoid karma is, you know, it's akarma. You act for the source of all things, the source of all the karma, and that's Krishna. If you act for Krishna, then the karma doesn't come to you. It's Krishna. Krishna takes it, and he's the controller of all these things. So, you know, depending on the degree to which we actually, you know, do that, then the karma wheel slows down and eventually stops, and we are able to become free. So, any other questions? Shucks. Okay. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. The Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Nyasi Maharaj.
Do we chant Hari Haraya now? Okay, you want to chant that? Maybe pass out the songbooks. What page was it on? It's like 60?
60, I think.
Yeah. So this is a song to glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the great gurus that came after him, and the ultimate destination of Krishna's Braja, and then the means through which we can get there, Harinam Sankirtan. It's written by Narottam.